Hello and welcome to the beautiful Messingham Sands here near Scunthorpe. Today we're on the Hollywood Bowl Lake, gorgeous lake, and we're here to cover everything you need to know about method feeder fishing. We've got two baits, which is the main approach for method feeder fishing. So we've got the micro pellets and we've got our ground bait. So firstly, we've got the fishery micros here at Messingham, which are the rolls. So I'm going to show you how to prepare them. So what we're going to do, pour them into the tub. Don't need loads because our main approach today is going to be ground bait, but we still need a few micros in with it. So I've just got loose micros in there. So all we're going to do is add enough water just to cover them. So just covering them there. So what we're going to do is, while we do the ground bait, I'm just going to leave them to soak. Loads of different ground baits on the market. Personally, this is my absolute favourite. So we've got the super feeder fishmeal and we've got the marine match method. Fantastic mix. So we're going to mix these 50-50. So firstly, we're going to we're not going to go nuts today because we can do this in batches. So I want roughly a pint. So we'll get a pint of the match method. I'm seeing there, don't look a lot of ground bait in there, but we're going to give it a good stir up. But once it takes on the water, it almost doubles in amount. So water wise, we're going to put just under a pint, probably about 2/3 of a pint of water in there. We're going to add majority of it. So I want it to go quite sloppy. So I'll probably just add a bit more, just so the water takes up all that. The particles take up all that water. We'll give it a good mix, and what we're going to do is leave that for 15 minutes. Let it absorb all that water, and we're going to come back to it. But before we do that, our micros have been soaking for approximately 2 minutes. So all I'm going to do now is just drain off the water. We don't want these going soft. We want a bit of hardness in them for when we mix them to the ground bait. So once all that water's gone, give it a bit of a rattle just to get the last bits out. Just going to give them a bit of a shake, and we're going to leave them. What we'll do is we'll leave them for 15 minutes. We'll get the rods ready and then we'll come back to it. 15 minutes have lapsed now, and we're going to sort of do the final bit of preparation for our bait. So as you can see, our ground bait's taken on all that water, giving it a good stir up. As you can see, we have got lumps in it which have sort of absorbed a bit more water than other bits. So what we'll do is we'll just get quite a fine riddle, just a maggot riddle. So we'll put the ground bait on top of that. What I'd like to do, give it a good shake, get rid of all the loose bits. Then what you end up with are all the lumpy bits. So it's just a case of gently pressing the ground bait through. There. So we're through that. And what you end up with is a lovely, fine, fluffy mix, perfect for the method feeder. So just one little squeeze, perfect. Put it on your hand, breaks up, lovely. So perfect mix. So our micros have also absorbed all our water. So broke it all nicely separate pellets, nice and soft. So if you give them a bit of a squeeze, they'll squeeze together. As we get on the box, I'll show you how I add the pellets to the ground bait. But what I want to do as well, show you what you need really for your ground bait so it doesn't dry out during the day, is like an airtight box. So if you pour your ground bait in, keep the lid on, and that should protect it from drying out throughout the day. So my setup, quite a simple setup really. It's all about trying to keep everything efficient and out the way. So rod rest wise, I've got my butt rest here. You know, it's all within nice reach of my hand. My front rod rest gives me a little bit of angle for my tip. So it's set so with the tip just above the water. Keeps everything so nothing gets interfered. If there's any crosswind or anything like that, the line doesn't get interfered with. So keep net sort of all out the way, so I'm not going to get interfered with here. Got my landing net, all nice to hand, and all my bait is really easy, manageable, right next to me on my tray. Trying to keep everything efficient, and hopefully we'll have a bumper day. So today I'm using the 10 foot sphere rod. This is like a top end rod, top end reel. Browning do a full range of rods to suit every budget. So we've got the Black Magic range, we've got the CK range, then we've got the Sphere range. So we've got a multitude of rods. What you're looking for is preferably for this shorter distance fishing is a 10 foot rod. So we do 10 foot rods in both them all them ranges. So if you couple it up, the rod, with like a 3,500, 4,000 size reel, gives you plenty of scope, plenty of winding power, and it'll be perfect for the job. So moving on to the tips. Most rods come with a multitude of tips. Personally, I like the 1.5 ounce tip. Gives me plenty of power, plenty of control over like up to a 30 gram feeder. So obviously we're using a 20 gram feeder today, loaded it'd be about 30 gram. So I'll be quite happy with a 1.5 ounce tip to put a 30 gram feeder on and load it. It'd be nice and controlled. But if I was going beyond that point, then I'd be looking maybe for a 2 ounce tip. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to find the best accuracy for your far bank. Personally, I like to start with a bomb. What I do is, because I'm going to be using a 20 gram method feeder, I'm going to use a 30 gram bomb. That should give me about the equivalent of a loaded feeder. So firstly, you're going to pick your marker on the far bank. So at this minute in time we've got a bush, we've got sort of a little gap and then another bush. So the aim is going to be into that gap. So it's going to be a nice steady cast. What we're going to try and do is aim just slightly short to start. And then once we've got that, we're going to clip up, give it a few turns and just gradually feed our way out. So we'll go. So a nice gentle cast. So what we'll do, we'll bring the rod back, just letting a bit of line off. And then I'll just clip it up. So what that'll do is give me, when I cast out, I can get my rod up high, let the lunge, and hopefully get it near on the target. And then we can just do the little bit of fine tuning. So we'll do again. So rod up. So pretty close to that bush. So quite happy that that's pretty much on the mark. So I'll just give it another go, just to make sure. So that's lovely. So what I might do, because that's just gone a little bit too far, just in sort of the bush, I'm just going to take a turn off it. So we'll get back under the clip again. And just that little bit of fine tuning now, just to make sure we're bang on the button. So that's just lovely now. Nice and close to that bank. You know, we're lining up sort of the corner of the bush. So I'm happy with that. So what we'll do, we'll bring it in, we'll change over to our method feeder. We won't be far off, ready to go. My main approach today, sort of with the micros and the ground bait, is going to be dead maggots. So I've got an 018 main line, nice and robust. You know, it's quite a short hook length, going with a 4-inch hook length. And we've got a 16 hook. It just balances nice with the maggot, nice and light, so when the fish is over that bait, it can just suck the bait up. That's going to be my main approach. But if they become a bit funny with that, we have got a couple of different alternatives. So I've got some Bandom sinkers, which I'm a real big fan of late. Especially when you're fishing into shallow water, you don't want it to be getting foul hookers. The Bandom sinker sort of stays on the deck, and the fish can come in, over it up, and you hook them properly. You don't tend to hook many fish sort of round the face, which you can do with a wafter. So our other alternative, if they are becoming really crafty, is we've got the micro Bandom wafters. So these are tiny. You know, we've got a multitude of colours. But what I like to use these with, I'll just pick it up from there, is a bayonet. What we've got, again, 4-inch hook length, size 16, Sphere Beast hook, really strong, nice and robust setup. But what we've got on the end of it is a bayonet. Just all we do is push that in, keeps the Bandom away from the hook, and hopefully we'll hook plenty of fish. What I like to do is use a cup. So sort of, I've got a separate tub here. This is like my working tub. So because I've been protecting my ground bait in there, I like to put fill it up to the top. Keep the lid back on. Keeps your bait nice and protected. So what I'll do then is I'll put about 1/8 of a cup in and pour them in. This gives me a gauge, so if they're reacting quite well, you know, to this, then I know what my mix is all the time. What I might have to do is up the micros a little bit, might have to reduce the micros, but that gives me a starting point. So that's my working tub. I don't like to put too much in it because it can dry out quite quick, especially on warm days. So a lovely mix. So what the micros tend to do is hold the fish in the peg. A bit longer, keeps the fish grubbing about while you're playing a fish. So the ground bait's the attractor. The micros are there to hold them in the peg. Pretty much a perfect mix. What we're using today is the 20 gram concept method feeder. These are quite a new product from Browning. The interchangeable system that comes on a stem. Got the stem, so you can pull the feeder off, got a split down the back. So if the conditions change, you can alter your feeder. These method feeders come in a range of sizes. I think we've got 20, 30 and 40 gram. And we come in small, medium and large. So what we've got is the medium feeder today. 20 gram, lovely, got a nice front load in here, casts nice and accurate and goes nice dead straight. So what I said before, we've got 020 method mono, free running system. So down to a quick change bead, just so we can change our hook lengths nice and quick. So firstly we're going to start with the dead maggots. So for loading the feeder, what I like to do, we've got our mould, which comes with you can buy separate from the feeders. So put a bit of bait in the feeder, just so it's just about 2/3 full. So what I like to do then, put my hook length in. So what I'll do then, you just fill the mould. Then what I like to do is just press the line into the top of the ground bait, so the feeder's sat on top, and then we'll give it a nice press. Right, after all that explaining, we're ready to make our first cast. I'm just going to take it nice and steady. Put that from there. And get the red on the wrist. So we're ready to go. What I've got, slight little bit of angle in the tip, just in case we get any drop backs. So we're looking for any indications. Obviously it's the first cast, it might take a few casts to build a bit of bait up and get a response. As you can see, this peg has got like a load of options. So we've got the island where we're targeting now. Reason being, it's a nice pleasant day. We've got like 20 odd degrees. It's nice shallow water. Summer, these fish love coming into the shallow water. So if that goes a little bit funny, I've got another option. I can utilise the shallow water up the banking. So we're on like an end peg here. We've got like a nice banking to my left hand side. So we can also utilise that. For summer, they're perfect. But in the winter time, when the fish are backing off a little bit into the deeper water, if I was on this peg in the winter, I've got the sort of the area in between the island and the banking. Got a load of options. So I've got the aerator to target, so we can target just at the bottom of the shelf to down the banking. We could target in front of the reed bed there, so got a load of options. But for today, we're going to concentrate on the island, and if things sort of go well, we won't need to use the sort of left hand side. But if things sort of get a little bit iffy, like, you know, we all know what fish can be like at times, we can always use the banking as our second option. So I've had a dead quick start. So that has been in literally 2 minutes. I was just thinking about possibly recasting. You know, we're gonna try and make some regular casts, just to try and get a bit of bait in the peg early on. It can be vital at times, you know, just to try and get a bit of bait there, get the fish into the peg. But we've had a pretty instant response. So very feisty, the carp here at Messingham. Today we're on the Hollywood Bowl Lake. Lovely, lovely lake, stuffed with fish. And the fish and half fight. We've got a lovely little carp. Lovely little comment. Bit of poor netting. Got him second time. So I took a great fancy to our double maggot hook bait. Just in the side of the mouth. So fantastic start. So let's get back in. What I'm doing in these early stages is I'm making a few quick casts. Hopefully we can get a few fish grubbing about in the peg, get that little bit of bait down. Like I say, if we don't make these few quick casts, and if we sort of wait too long, it's only a small amount of feed we're actually putting out there, so the fish can soon wipe it out. But what I'm planning to do is cast every 2 minutes. For the first 20 minutes I'll be casting every 2 minutes, get a nice bit of bait there, see what the reaction is. So, as we go on, we'll sort of learn more of how the fish want us to feed. It hasn't taken them long. them fish long to find that bait. I'm already getting indications on the tip, plenty of indications, but we're not getting that like really positive reaction. Like we want it, that feeder going in and we want it going round, so getting a nice bed of bait there might sort of create that more positive reaction. So we'll give it another 30 seconds, and if we don't have a bite we'll reel it in, we'll recast. We're getting loads of liners, loads of indications, but what we're waiting for is that confident pull round. So normally when you're fishing like ground bait, especially with dead maggots, they're not looking for the hook bait, they're looking for the pile of ground bait. So the maggots are just in it, they're a nice light bait, we've got a relatively light hook on, even though like it's a sphere beast, it sounds like a big strong hook, but isn't. It's a nice light gauge hook, but extremely strong and extremely sharp. So we haven't had the reaction we wanted yet, so what we'll do is we'll just reel it in. Well, I was just caught on something then. So just hook baits come off. So what I'm using is just 2 dead maggots. Just hooking them through the thin end of the maggot, just so we've got plenty of hook showing. So just load our feeder. So hook length into the ground bait, just so don't get wafted about. A nice steady cast. And just a nice little swing out, come back, and in. And just drop it. We'll just sink that line just so it don't get interfered with a bit of breeze. The rod on the rest, and then we're hands free. We're getting indications on that tip straight away. Just making sure there's a little bit of bend in it, in the tip, just so if the fish swims away from the island, we can see that as a drop back. Hopefully this time we have a nice positive pull round. So there's something playing about with it. We just had a little nudge on the tip. We've got plenty of fish, plenty of activity. Just got to keep building that peg up, keep building that nice regular casts at the start. Like I say, it's only probably a small bit of bait, what big as your sort of the palm of your hand. You know, once it's spread out, it's not a lot of bait. One of them carp can hoover that up in one sitting, one quick mouthful, it's gone. We're getting indications on the tip. We're not getting that reaction. Like I say, we're only very early into the match, but this is only like our 3rd, 4th cast. So give it a, there we go, nice positive drop back, and then it's pulled. So a nice positive bite. So it's flicked back and then it's pulled. You know, it's proper nailed it. So no rush playing the fish. You know, they are a good stamp, they are feisty. So just take your time, every fish counts. I've got nice balanced gear on, not too heavy. If you do a bad cast, you know, that's just dropped marginally short. Don't be frightened to just bring it back in. No point being in the wrong place. You know, if you might spend a lot longer in the wrong place, whereas you cast it in the right place, you get an instant bite. And just reload the feeder. So nice and casual. Much better. So right on the button. You can tell that was right on the spot because there's fish there straight away. You can actually see them. Straight over the bait. So we're got a nice liner then. So sometimes just, because we're fishing in shallow water, they can sort of just brush against the line quite easily. I've just got to wait for that positive pull round like that. That's a perfect example. Just waited for that, and that feels like a better fish. So nice and calmly, just try and keep the pressure on it and draw it away from the island. So as we said about before, just keeping that rod nice and low. What we're trying to do is keep that fish is on the surface now, swimming towards us. So what we're trying to do is draw it towards us, keeping it on the surface. So as you can see, it's still on the surface. We'll get our net ready. So we're just in there. Oh, we've got it. So a nice 2-3 pound fish in the net in no space, no time at all. Just still, like I say, just still keeping it all nice and controlled. What I like to do is just change the hook baits each time. It's personal preference. So I've opted for 2 dead red maggots. Hook through the tail end of the maggot, the thin end of the maggot, just to keep all the hook exposed. Don't want the hooks getting masked. Don't want to be missing bites. So nicely on the spot. Put our rod in position, and again we're waiting for that nice positive bite. So every time we bring that feeder in, we're leaving a little pile of bait there, so the peg's building all the time. We're getting plenty of activity. You can actually see some fish sort of moving about in the peg. So that's why we're having to sit on our hands. You know, you could quite easily try in every indication trying to pull the rod in, but you'd never hook anything. So just sitting there patient, waiting for that really positive sign on the rod. Like I say, we're getting liners there. Because we're in the shallow water, the fish can brush against it quite easily. So we're getting plenty of signs, indications there. But once they're on it, they take it and that tip goes around properly. It's sometimes better off not looking across there. When you can see them fish there, try and just keep an eye on your tip. Let your tip sort of tell you what's going on properly. It'd be too easy to sort of get a little bit giddy, you know, and trying to strike, and you'll end up foul hooking fish. You know, you end up losing fish, getting broken because you've sort of reacted to stuff you shouldn't be reacting to. So I'm going to leave. If we don't get a positive bite within a minute, I'll be bringing it back in and recasting. Just trying to get them fish feeding nice and confident. But what they might have done is been in, wafted that bait about a little bit, so it left our hook bait there. What we want our hook bait to be in is in our little pile of bait. So it might be a case of trying to pack the feeder a little bit harder, just so when it is in there, when they go over it, they're having to actually feed on it, actually move the feeder about, you know, get the bait out the feeder, off the feeder, sorry, and then hopefully they just suck the hook bait up at the same time. So keeping an eye on that tip all the time. So I've not had any action, so what we'll do is bring it in and recast. The hook bait wise we're fine. We'll pack the feeder as tight as we can. Give it a squeeze as well. Try and make it a little bit harder for them to knock off. Love a little plop in. Line under. On the rest. Hopefully this time we get a positive pull round. So what we can do, we can start experimenting with the next little batch of bait what we've done, because we're getting close to having to redo the bait. So what we could do this time is put a few extra micros in. Maybe that'd make them feed more confident. Sometimes they'll respond really well to the ground bait, sometimes they want a few more micros. It's just experimenting, but because we've started off with like a benchmark with our 1 pot of ground bait, and then we've put like an eighth of a pot of micros in. What we can do is maybe 1 pot and 2/8 of micros, just to try and gauge, see what reaction we get to doing that. There's no exact science of what they'll want and what they'll feed on the day. It's just sort of playing it by ear, trying to suss out what they want. We've also got our other option of hook baits. We've got our abandoned sinkers, we've got our micro abandons. So we've got different options, but for the beginning of the match I like to keep with the maggots. We've had 3 fish, you know, quite in quite quick succession, but I feel it could go better. We could catch quicker. So what we'll do next time, we'll do our next batch of bait. We'll put 1 cuppa then in 2/8 of a pot of micros, and we'll see how we go from there. We've had a really good start, but it wasn't quite right. With what was getting once was casting in was quite a lot of activity. So what I've done in this second batch of ground bait is I've put a few extra micros in, but I've also added a little bit more water just to make it more sticky. What I've wanted is make sure the pile of bait gets to the bottom. I think what was happening originally was when we was casting in, a bit of the ground bait was coming off and sending them into a bit of a frenzy. So what we've got now is a slightly more sticky mix. Just putting my fingertips in the water, adding a few sort of splashes into my ground bait, mixing it up, and we've got a nice sticky mix now. And what we've also changed to make a bit more of a focal point across there is I've changed to a yellow bandom sinker. It seemed for sort of last couple of casts we've had a sort of slightly better fish each time, so it definitely hasn't harmed. I'll just whack that back out. So nice into our spot. I think the yellow hookbait is a bit more stand out. So if there's quite a lot of activity, quite a lot of fish there, then sort of in there wafting the bait about. But obviously there's a bright yellow bait there for him to home in on. I've had really positive indications straight away. But it's a case of having to sometimes just sit on your hands because you've got your tips that busy. But until it gives a real positive pull, you've got to sort of leave it alone. Otherwise you'll be foul looking fish, you'll be reeling in all the time, rebaiting, and you're just like the busy fool. So just being patient, sort of making sure you don't strike it, try and strike at all these indications, wait for that positive pull round, and that's when you hook your fish. I'm still getting loads of indications. Just going to marginally tighten that tip up a bit. Got loads of fish in the peg. Can actually see tail fins and fins coming out. Try not to let that distract me. Just waiting for that. So we've got quite a positive pull then, but then it just dropped back. So I was going to go for the rod, but I've left it alone. I'll give it about 30 seconds because there's a possibility they've just got rid of all that bait off the feeder. Give it about 30 seconds and I'll recast it. But because we've got that nice visual hook bait there, they might home in on that. Considering there's so many fish there, they're really not easy to catch. But just by altering the mix a little bit, we've sort of got a more positive reaction, making sure that our feeder's getting on the bottom. You know, it's a little pile of bait, homing in on it and having it. So, still getting loads of signs. I'm going to give it another 10 seconds and I'm going to bring it in, rebait up. What is giving me a lot of confidence in this slightly stickier mix is that we're actually coming back with a small amount of bait on the feeder, whereas when we sort of did the initial mix we was getting a nice clean feeder coming back. So what I'm feeling is that pile of bait is staying on the feeder for longer while we're across there. And then even when we're playing fish, we're coming back with that little bit of feed trapped in the bars. So I'm a lot happier now because, like I said, we're getting a far better response with this slightly stickier mix than what we was at the start. So just by adding a few fingertips of water to our mix when we've put it in, we're getting a far better response. So it might be one of them days where you have to adjust and change your bait just slightly. Just these tiny little changes can result in far better catching. Your catch rate can go up far better. So yeah, we've had a really nice run, you know, since we've altered things, and we've also altered the hook bait a bit. The dead maggots, I don't know if they was getting a bit lost, but as soon as we've gone to a sort of yellow sinker, Bandham sinker, the response has been absolutely fantastic. So instead of talking, I'm going to get myself back in. We've had an absolutely fantastic run on the sinker, but the last half an hour they've become so finicky, yet there's still loads of fish there. What I've done, I've opted to change my hook bait. I've gone back to maggots. This time I've gone with like double white maggot. What I'm doing is I'm putting the maggots right on the top of the feeder. It just seems to be getting the last couple of casts I've tried it and it's gone round really quick. It just goes to prove sometimes that just changing, when it goes a bit funny, just changing your bait can get an instant response. I'll just put that bang on the mark. Got loads of fish there, loads of fish that actually, you could see them feeding in the peg, but they would not have that sinker. Early on it was fantastic with it, but I think they've just sort of got used to it. They've sort of seen it all before. They've just altered the maggot, and straight away we're in again. Some days it can be like this, you know. You've just got to alter your hook baits, keep them fish coming. So I'm having an absolutely mega day here today. Absolutely fantastic. These hard fighting Messingham carp. Just absolutely fantastic. Oh, beautiful fish these. Absolutely immaculate condition. Plumb in the bottom lip. Just show you this one. I've got like a little bit of ghosty in him. I won't lift him too high, still quite active, but absolutely beautiful colours. Let's get him in the net. And we'll get ourselves out back again. Today I've opted to fish a method feeder, and the reason being is because we've got nice shallow water, we're fishing ground bait, we want a nice instant response. If it was a longer distance and was throwing like to maybe the far bank instead of like the shorter island, I'd probably opt for a hybrid feeder on that occasion. If that longer distance, a little bit more aerodynamic, can pack the bait in. But for this shorter chuck and this, to try and get this instant response, I like to opt for a method feeder. When you're using your method feeder, your bait's piled there, they've got instant access to it, so we're going to get an instant response. If you're going to be maybe sitting and waiting a bit longer, maybe as it gets colder, you're more fishing micros, things like that, then I might opt for a hybrid feeder, just so that pile of bait can't get wafted away. It's sat within the feeder, the fish can come and feed on it, no problem at all. So that's the reasons I've opted for the method today. So we do the hybrid feeder as well. They come in the same sizes. They come in large, medium and small. They both fit the same mould. We both fit in the same mould. So if you did want to pile your hybrid feeder up a bit more, as like you do your method feeder, you can use the same mould. But we're going to call this the last fish of the day. It's been absolutely fantastic here at Messingham. The fishing has definitely not let us down at all, and with a few changes and altering the baits we've been using, we've kept the fish coming all day. Hope you've got plenty from this video. Hope you enjoyed watching it, and we'll hopefully see you on the bank sometime. What a lovely way to end the day.